All right, in this section we're going to talk about inverse functions. And so an inverse function, notice it already says function on there, and we've already talked about functions and what that means. So we know the x's can't repeat for our function. And so now we're going to kind of narrow it down a little bit here. So the first thing we're going to talk about are one-to-one functions. Now, the fact that it says functions, we already know, because of that, then we know the x's can't repeat. That's the function part of it, and that's what we know is happening. Now we're going to do a subcategory of that. In particular, a one-to-one function also has the criteria that the y's can't repeat. So that's the deal with a one-to-one function. The fact that it's a function, automatically we know the criteria about the x's. However, whenever we look at this and we have a one-to-one function, well, now the y's can't repeat either. So this has to directly be a one-to-one. Remember, we talk about mathematicians aren't creative, so what it's called is what's happening there. So let's take a look at a couple of functions here and determine if they're one-to-one. Notice the fact that this is already f of x. I know this is a function, so the criteria for the x's is already taken care of. The only criteria that we're concerned about once we know it's a function is if the y's repeat. So if I'm looking at this function, I have negative 4x plus 12 that we're looking at. So with this negative 4x plus 12, is there anything in there that I'm going to have a repeating y? Like, what is this? Like, if I'm just looking at this on a graph, what would this be on a graph? Right, it's a line because it's in slope-intercept form, right? So if you just are looking at a line, and what you have going for your line there, this is a negative slope, so I know it's going to go down like this. Is there anything repeating? Now, this one's a perfect example of a one-to-one function. So, yes, the x's repeat, the y's, the x's do not repeat, and the y's do not repeat. So, yes, this is a one-to-one function. Cool. Now, check this one out. I have this x squared in there. Because I have this x squared, the same thing happened whenever we had our functions where any y to an even power, we know that was out. The same thing happens here. This is x to an even power. Now, a common mistake on this particular problem is you look at this problem and you see that it's something is squared and it has the square root. So this square root and the fact that it's squared, people think, oh, those cancel it out. No, it does not cancel because it's attached to this minus sign. So because it's attached to the minus sign, you don't have to worry about it. So in this instance, because we have something that is squared, this x value right here is squared, that's the deal. So because x is squared, no. This is not one-to-one. Now the symbol for one-to-one here is 1-1. Instead of writing out all the words, you can just write that symbol. This is not one-to-one, and the criteria behind this is x can't be to an even exponent. That's the criteria. So anytime x is to an even exponent, you just simply look at the problem and you know that's out. So if x is to an even exponent, you're done. All right? Cool. So when we had our functions, we determined if it was a function using a vertical line test. That told us that the x's couldn't repeat, right? Because vertical lines are x equals some number. If the y's also can't repeat, then we are going to use y equals some number, so we have this horizontal line test that we're looking at. So on this first part A, do you think this first one is one-to-one? Now it's a function, we know that, but do you think it is one-to-one? Yeah, I don't either. Because as you do your horizontal line test, look what happens. It hits right there, it hits right there, it hits right there. Anytime it hits it once, you're out. More than once, you're super out, right? So this one fails the horizontal line test, so I know that this function is not one-to-one, because that's what you're looking for. But look at part B here. I can make horizontal lines all day long on this one, and there are no issues associated with it. So yes, this one is 1-to-1. Good. That's the key with the horizontal line test. You're just looking at it and you're saying, okay, if it hits it more than once, you're out. If it doesn't hit it here just this one time, then you're good to go. That's the key. Cool.